sound the alarms. This is 52 Weeks Live. I'm Alexa Hampton, and we are going to be speaking to Barry Goralnick today, and I'm very excited about it because we tried it yesterday, and we had some trouble. So we're going to do it again today. And I'm just clicking in. Okay. Nope. Okay, everybody. Barry Goralnick. Hi, wave. Just, there we go. And, okay, finally. Yes, it is an atmospheric bedroom. Purple. Hey! Oop. I can't see your whole face.
What? No, I don't know. Oh.
Hi.
Oh my God.
Yay.
Hello.
Okay, we're going to make
Nothing like anticipation.
Right? Hi, Mother. Okay, thank you so much for doing this again. Yesterday was, we get it right sometimes and we get it wrong sometimes. But now we're both in good Wi-Fi areas.
Yes. And let me just say, some heads have rolled at Verizon.
No, it happens to everybody. So anyway, I would love to introduce you. Obviously, you're Barry Goralnick. You're a wonderful designer, an architect, product designer. I am a fan. You've had an incredible career, and still are having an incredible career. And I'm like, whoa, that sounded like a finale. And
it's not a memorial.
Right? I know. So anyway, yesterday we started by talking about how you started off. We were talking about your childhood bedroom, and I'm afraid we're just going to have to do it again. Okay. So you said you were always interested, even I think you redecorated your room when you were 11.
My mom let me
work 9
with the decorator when I was 9, and then I was like 12. I redid it by myself.
Because
to my standards.
Your standards. And you got heavy into 1970s black and gray and silver.
Yeah, black and white and fur bedspread. And it was pretty groovy. I was pretty into the James Bond movies, as I know you love to.
My ringtone is dun 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 dun. You know, I adore James Bond.
I mean, when I was a little kid, I also had black turtlenecks and like suede sweaters, and I made my mother go to the ends of the earth to find black sport jackets because
Right.
I was ready for New York at an early age.
Yeah. And where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Swampscott, Massachusetts. Little teeny town on the seaside.
And
like an idyllic childhood.
That's wonderful.
At least
not many people claim that.
Visual. Yeah.
And when you first started looking around and realizing what surroundings or the effect that it all had on you, you originally started looking at architecture.
Right.
So what grade?
From the time I was a little boy, I was always drawing houses, and we lived at the beach, so building houses in the sand, and they weren't like sandcastles. They were little modernist constructions.
So it was always modern in the beginning.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But I also lived in this great area because we had homes from the 17th century, the 18th century Federalist houses. We had the summer White House for Woodrow Wilson. It was McKinley. Sorry, it was an amazing area.
And your parents encouraged you.
Yes, my father would have encouraged me in anything that he thought was a proper profession.
Meaning that could pay for itself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that
And
is
not
so,
that architecture is the easiest route, but
absolutely not. And it certainly has a lot of schooling.
right. My mom was really creative, and I think had my mom lived a little later, she would have been a designer. She loved drawing and like everything, and she made me part of everything that had to do with the house, and it was,
Your parents sound like great people.
yeah, they were.
Yeah.
I like anytime I showed any iota of interest in anything, I had lessons.
Were
So like
you
art
were you an
lessons.
only child?
No, I have a sister who's not creative at all.
Older, younger?
Older.
And what does she do?
She's a mom.
Which is legit. You
Has,
don't have to worry about me understanding that is it. That's why I'm like in here with the door locked.
she has lots of degrees, but she just really wants to, she's been a great mom and a support. Her husband's a doctor, and we talk almost every day.
God, it's been something that has recurred many times in these talks that people feel, not supported, and that they tried other fields before they got into this field. So it's a lovely about face to hear about someone who actively claims an idyllic childhood, who speaks to their siblings every day, and
Yeah,
whose parents are just nothing but encouraging.
I was at a dinner party in Manhattan, and I hadn't seen for a while, and they said, "How's your sister?" And I said, "She's fine. I talk to her every day." And everyone around the table went, "Why?"
Yeah, I'm sorry about the phone ringing. I can't. But where does she live?
She lives in Arizona, and she has kids, and we're all really close.
And picking it up and hanging it up. Sorry. Sorry. No distractions now.
We're both in our bedrooms today.
We are both in our. Oh, can I get a little look around?
No. I'm all situated.
Okay. I know my thing is all propped up on books, and obviously I'm sitting on the floor. So when you went to college, you went to Brandeis.
I went to Brandeis.
Because you have quite a bit of schooling. Which
I like
is good.
schooling. Isn't schooling better than working?
Well, now it is.
Yeah.
I remember being very excited, even though I went to grad school, very excited to get to it. But now, of course, if I could do anything, if you said, Alexa, you have all the money in the world, besides marbling, I want to be like a cow and just slowly marble. Be massaged like a Kobe beef cow. The other thing would be to be a student again, because it would be so much fun, because you really appreciate it so much more when you're older. But you went to Brandeis, and your sorry, I'm off to the side again. Your majors were
English literature and fine art, and I had a little detour into pre-med.
Really?
Yeah.
You hadn't told me that before.
I thought I would have been a good shrink, and I think we are shrinks. We decorated.
Yeah. Not to say that we don't deserve our own shrinking.
Exactly.
But yes, we are the repository of a lot of vocalized stress and discord.
No, but just some, teaching people how to adapt to their spaces, and mediating between parties and a couple,
and how to tease out what makes them happy, whether it's color or structure.
Exactly. Or how to get them to see how what we want them to do is what makes them happy. Right?
Yeah, totally. But I like that you did English literature at the same time, because we are not just, one thing. We are not just what we do for financial gain. We are complete people. My God. We are cursed.
You're so popular.
Hello? Thank you. Please don't call back. He's gonna call back. I know who it is, and I know he's gonna call back. So anyway,
I think it's just really important to be a well-rounded person, and I feel like
I agree.
I don't feel like
everything we
do it feeds into who we are, and our
And
styles.
yeah, yeah, everything does feed into it, and yet those things that you can't quote unquote monetize are equally important to everything.
Right. I remember in school, in grad school, a friend of mine who'd gone to Smith and she's really smart, and this guy,
I'm listening.
oh,
I'm turning off the ringer.
who had only studied architecture undergraduate and nothing else. And we had to write an essay, and he said, "Can I come over and help me? I have no idea how to write." And, you know, we met him and sort of kicked him off, and we came back like 7 hours later, having shopped all over Boston. And he was still sitting there and had written the same sentence. Like he had, you know, there's so many skills like writing and that we need every day.
Yeah. Writing, speaking. I mean, it's interesting. It's, you know, all communications for a career such as ours are vital. But your drawing, of course, is a means of communication. And I think you told me yesterday that, yeah, writing is such a lost art, that you always draw for your clients.
Yes,
in presentations.
Everything starts with hand sketches. For my product design too, it's all hand done. And then we eventually put it into the computer to make things, you know, to fabricate things. But because to me, there's such a romance to design, and you know, you can create the narrative and this visual effect. It's like, you know, reading a good book where you fill in your imagination what it's really going to be. And I don't want to give them a perfect, this is it, you know, perfect 3D rendering, because, you know, we're just at the beginning of the process. We're still working together.
And there's
I
some
don't
joy,
want it to
there's
be
some joy to
set
be
in
had
stone.
in the process.
Right.
Just if you secure
really
the
like
answer.
Sorry. People really like it.
Yeah, for sure.
And the other thing is sometimes, you know, I always bring my sketch pad to meetings, and something will come up.
In case you get bored.
No! That's
the little hangman.
You know, I was at a meeting at one of our manufacturers, and we have done a chandelier, and they said, well, we should do a sconce to go with the chandelier. And I pulled out my pad and I said, well, what if it looked like that? And everyone around the table went, oh my God, he can draw.
Yeah.
Like they were so surprised.
It's like a parlor trick. It's great to be able to whip it out, so to speak.
So to speak.
Because
oh, Alexa.
Because it is, I mean, not that it's at all necessary for people who cannot draw. You know, they obviously can still be designers or decorators, but it does grant some validity to the fact that you are a creative entity.
Right.
When you can draw, like it's a great asset.
I think so. And you know, what we're selling is our training and our talent. We're not out there just to get someone a discount. We're there to create something that
We're not
they've
a
never had before, right?
Yeah. And I think in this day and age, and I'm a trustee at the New York School of Interior Design, you know, what these schools are teaching people is incredible and totally necessary. Because there is a path for our career that is much more defined than it was decades ago. It really must be followed because it does confer a professionalism upon those who have that education.
Right. And the drawings I've seen there are just blown away by the presentations. They're just astounding.
And they're learning about, you know, lighting and hospital designs and all kinds of things that, you know, I met with this weekend as well. This Saturday, I'm meeting with students at my pop-up shop at 200 Lex just to walk them around and talk to them about, you know, the pieces and what their inspirations are. And when I was talking to a bunch of them last weekend, one of them wants to design for amusement parks. Oh. And she wants to do ships, and she, you know, she's affiliated with Disney. And I thought, like, wow, that is amazing. And those are things that you can't wing it. There are too many requirements.
Yeah. There's a woman in my office who studied car design.
So cool.
so cool, right?
Yeah.
So
I
she
have,
really understands how everything comes together.
yeah. I've decorated 2 cars, but I do not understand anything about how they go together. It was more like, let's reupholster it. So you left Brandeis, and where did you go then?
Well, let's say I graduated.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You graduated from Brandeis, and then you went
I went right
directly to Harvard.
To Harvard, yeah.
And you were telling me that your access to people like Richard Meyer and
Yeah,
Michael Graves, and
right.
that
So
it was a huge boon.
yeah, I was just saying that we got a great education. You can get a great education at lots of schools.
Yeah,
But one
absolutely.
of the things about school was, the access we had. And my final critique before I graduated was Philip Johnson, Charles Gwathmey, Frank Gehry,
Wow.
who was my teacher that semester, and Harry Cobb, who was IMPA's partner.
Mm-hmm.
That was incredible. And Frank
Yeah.
used to come to my apartment to give me reviews. I mean, it was a great experience.
Yeah. And I actually I would liken that a bit to being in New York, because that's where those people are.
Yeah.
And
And when I
can
moved
find
to New
yourself.
York, I had a lot of friends, young friends, and we'd all call each other and say like, "Oh, they're opening such and such a building tonight. We can meet all the architects and get free food." And we'd be
Yeah.
like, "Okay, I'll meet you at."
Yeah, you didn't know
It
what you
was
were
a
more
great-
excited about.
It was exactly.
Right.
It was such a great network of people.
Yeah. Do you feel that it's like that, you still have access to the network now, or do you think it's bigger or smaller?
One of the things is belonging to the Design Leadership Network, which has
Mhm.
taken me beyond. Well, for one thing, in product design, we get to meet designers from all over the country.
And that was a class in grad school?
No, I learned that.
So you just mean in life?
No,
Yes,
no. But you said about New York and the network.
well, New York, it's there if you want it, but you already had access to it at that point. So I think just the way, my parents are older, obviously, than you, but everything was so genteel,
Yes.
Like my father would have a letter from Albert Hadley introducing him to somebody if he went to London, or it just was so. It was so polite and sweet.
Do you have all those?
I don't know. My mother might.
No.
Probably. They're big. They're big into keepsakes.
That would be an incredible archive.
Yeah, I mean they've got scrapbooks from the year 1 from 1962. So very possibly.
Wow.
So Old World Design Florida said, "Did you realize at the time that you were being taught by the greatest?"
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, that alone is
We
thrilling to feel like, wow, I am hearing it from the horse's mouth.
We used to have lotteries. There would be, ex-professors and ex-students, and you'd all enter a lottery to see which studio you got. So you do your top choices. And that's how I got Frank Gehry for that semester. He was just a visiting professor, but it was unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
He brought Richard Serra to class one day to talk about sculpture, and it was great. And his wife was there, his kids were running around, and he was just a kind of a regular guy.
I'm sure he is a regular guy, living, breathing. It's when I went to grad school, which was also for fine art, but it was art history, and it was at the Institute of Fine Arts. I found that, and I'm a huge fan of the Institute, so do not misunderstand me, but I found that the academic world did not gaze fondly upon the world of interior designers and architects necessarily, unless you were Michelangelo. And it's interesting to me.
And how many people are?
Let's just say I was not. But it's interesting to me that given those prejudices that exist still, that you were able to have this underpinning of architectural knowledge, and that you were open to interior design, that you didn't feel it was somehow beneath you, that you embraced it, I think is very cool.
Well, early on, I worked for this young architect named Wayne Berg, and we had these fantastic clients like Donna
Yeah.
Karen and Bill Blass. And we worked for a very famous socialite and did this incredible, really modern apartment, blew out 2 floors of a building. And then she hired an interior designer who just had no understanding of our space.
Oops.
And it was the first time I thought, if I'm going to do this, I want the whole vision, you know, soup to nuts. Like, I don't want somebody coming and mucking it up.
So you were megalomaniacal.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, no.
And you know, just to be fair, sometimes I work as part of the team as just the architect or just the designer, and I've worked with incredible people, but it sort of pushed me into doing, you know, more than just the architecture.
Right. Having a complete grasp.
And here's like the world's worst anecdote. When
I can't wait.
when we graduated school, the last semester, we did these mega projects. Like mine was an entire city block in Oklahoma City. The next studio was a monastery in Nepal. Cool. So it was this kind of masters of the universe, you know, they were training us to be. And the first job I got in New York, it was a bad job market. And I worked for this guy who was an architect builder. First day of my job, so I'm like really excited. And the first day of my job, and he hands me the penthouse of this building he's doing on the east side. And he said, could you just lay out the furniture for me? So I worked on it for a while. And I went into his office and I said, you can't actually, you cannot lay out furniture. There is no way to lay out furniture in this penthouse. And he looked at me and he said, I didn't hire you to think, I hired you to draw. And it was
charming. A loving little,
so deflating, but I just knew he was wrong. I think all these little things just impel you to make yourself better. You know, it's like to prove yourself.
Yeah, though there's something about that, you know, always having it to have to be a struggle that. You know, I would like to think that we could all attain our goals without the grief. You know, of course you need to push your boundaries, but I think there's a world in which grief has no place. You know, like bad working experiences. For sure, actually my aunt posted something this morning that said, don't remember the incident, remember the lesson. You know, it'd be nice if we could learn these things without those bad moments. But those bad moments certainly cement those lessons in our heads forever.
Because this was decades ago, and I remember it as if it was today.
Do you mentor in your office?
Yeah, a lot of the experiences I had working for people taught me what not to do and how to be the best boss possible. And over the years, I'll run into people who've worked for me, and so many people say, I had no idea how good it was until I went to work for someone else, which is really nice thing to hear.
I want to know what makes the best boss possible in your view of it, because that's a meaty piece of information.
Well, I think one thing is, you know, being considerate and appreciative, and if someone does something well, always tell them. And I think we run it like a studio. So if no one has any territory, whether you're interior designer or architect, you know, we're all there for the common good. And there's a problem to solve. Just stand around when we could stand around each other's desks. You know, and it's just like, oh, well, have you thought of this? Or what if we move that? And it doesn't matter who it is, you know, it just makes it better. So it's that, I guess it's a democracy. It's you know, it's a studio, and I don't know, we have a really great group, and I appreciate them, and I do tell them all the time
that they're doing well. What do you see as the attributes of a good leader? Because it's a democracy on the one hand, but you are leading them. What's the best way you can lead? And how big is your office, by the way?
Well, there's three of us, and then I have
But
this kind of
the cast is two.
virtual. It's probably about 10 altogether, virtual. And, I think it's just you have to have the vision, and you have to be open to other people's ideas because maybe they have a better idea. And sometimes I'll let someone do their thing just because it's important to. It's like a marriage, I guess. Sometimes you let your husband do something you don't really like, but you don't want to.
That's where you're wrong.
Well, you don't.
I might be in here on the floor.
Let me walk that back. Oh, I don't know. I met your husband. He's pretty strong.
He says he keeps me around for my entertainment value, and I tell him I keep him around for his looks. So we're completely symbiotic.
So it's a win-win.
Yeah, it's totally. But yeah, I do think leadership. There's so many definitions out there of what makes a good leader. I'm very curious about what the real answer is, and I know it can change, but it's.
Well, I just think you want to treat people the way you want to be treated. There's so many stories in our business, especially architects, I'm sorry to say.
Are what?
That have a bad rep.
They do.
Some of them.
I'm
an architect and they go, oh.
Oh, no. Oh my God, architects are so incredibly, oh my God, the things that they know that we need them to know, that we are so lucky that they know. It's endless how important they are.
Well, I kind of think we're a little bit like doctors because we know how everything works or is supposed to work. So I feel like our clients kind of give us more latitude as architects because they can't do what we do. And with interior design, they have more opinions.
Yeah, but we don't know what you know. I mean, if somebody wanted me to do the mechanical work, I mean, God help them.
Right. It's like in school, we have to study engineering. And it's not that we're going to do engineering, but we have to know how to communicate with the engineers.
So again, get back down to communication.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing in a project to work on? Or does it change every day?
Well, I love the blank page, just the very beginning where you could do anything and exploring. And I love demolition. I think it's some kind of primal male.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Bam, bam.
And my father had a factory, and the happiest days where he could knock down a wall or something.
What did he do? What kind of factory?
It was a meat processing factory in Massachusetts.
Okay.
My dad was an immigrant from Russia, and
we are all immigrants one way or the other. Well,
exactly.
not all of us, but yeah.
And he went to law school, but he ended up in business.
Yeah. Well, having a law degree is, my father went to law school and did not end up practicing law. Knowing some of the laws, never a bad thing.
Right. That little World War II thing somehow got in the middle there.
Mm-hmm. But anything that sharpens your brain can't be a bad
Well,
thing.
for all of us, law, business, no matter what you do, having those skills is just invaluable.
Since you're both, I want to ask you, what do you see as one of the biggest blunders that decorators can do with their architect, besides not listening to them? Like, what do you wish decorators, interior designers, and I always use them both because I don't know who's got to be in their bonnet about what, so I just use both.
You don't want to get canceled.
Cancel away. But what do you think would be valuable for decorators to think more about when they're working with architects?
I think the key to a good relationship is that both people are brought on at exactly the same time. Because it's a team. You, the contractors, the clients, the interiors, or whatever. And if you all start off together, because if the architect goes down this road and the designer wants to put in drapes where we don't have shade pockets, or there's air conditioning ducts, and it's like, oh, I want to put a window seat there. Well, you can't because of that's the door.
Reality, the physical universe.
But if you if you all start at the same time and communicate what you want to do, I think that's just the easiest way to work on a project. A lot of times people bring in the interior designer much too late.
Yes, but that's bad because it's practically bad. You know, you can't put an outlet in the floor, or you don't want to put an outlet in the floor after the floor has been put in.
Exactly.
Know that.
Or in the wrong place.
You definitely don't want that. And what as a, I mean, but that, you know, that answer makes, it's philosophical. It's like, oh, nobody believes there's a hierarchy because both are weighted the same. But that's not necessarily the experience when you're hired on at the same time, because sometimes one of the two of you is more cozier with the client, or has a more, you know, the client just likes one of you better or clicks with one of you better. So even though you might be weighted the same, there's always a difference in, you know, your relationships with the job. But I guess it's just respecting each other's lane and working together. Well, as you describe your office, make it a democracy.
Right.
But,
so somebody just said an architect never asks where you put your Christmas tree.
Is that true? I don't think so. I think some do.
And there was a very famous story in the 80s.
And you said you worked for the Good Friends, so we know about their Christmas.
So we hired that firm who put that Christmas tree up there. I knew exactly where that tree was.
Every Christmas, I remember that tree. It was like the one in
the Metropolitan Museum.
Rockefeller Center. Yeah.
So whoever William Mack is, I'm aware.
Yeah. You're not wrong, but yes. You have a particular tree experience. What about
I have the all-time tree experience.
Yes.
We were in the post.
I'm sure. What about the other way? What do you wish decorators would think more about? No, I already said that, didn't I? Which is which? Yeah. What reverse there? What should architects be more thoughtful about with decorators?
Well, I just think for architects, because the one thing I hear all the time is architects don't understand furniture plans or the way people live. And I
Not if they're successful.
I don't exactly, but I think understanding how the people are going to live in the space and how they're going to use it, and if there's a bedroom, is there a seating group, or where the TV is going to go, and I think that level you really need from the beginning.
Yeah. Do you like it, given that you're also an architect, do you like it when you're just the decorator?
I really like collaborating with, good people. So it's all an adventure, and I enjoy it. Yeah.
When did you get involved with product design?
Okay. That's a long question.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting on the floor in my bedroom. Letter mail.
So way back when I started the firm, it was hard to find good kind of neoclassical / modern furniture. Mm-hmm. And for my I had everything made for my projects. I sourced the makers, and I love that aspect of it, because I think if I was doing a small project, the frustrated architect, every small project was actually some little form of a building, right? So like a dining table is a cool building. And then Jim Druckmann had this exposition at 200 Lex for designers to make and display furniture. Mm-hmm. And we entered a light fixture and a cocktail table. And they were very well received. And Jim said, well, you should produce those. I'll sell them at Profiles. So we did. We started manufacturing, and it grew into a collection that was sold all over the country, like Holly Hunt.
I remember coming across your things at in the building on 61st Street.
Yes. We opened a showroom. Yeah. Where we had the office. We were like the designing women. We had the office in the back and the showroom in the front. We're a lot like designing women.
But I mean, I was a wee little lad, or lassie rather, and oh my God, too much of my Monster drink, And I remember very,
Is there
very
tequila
well.
in your Monster?
No, I'm not drinking booze this year. I'm taking a year off,
Okay.
which is so ambitious, but I'm doing it. So, hey. But anyway, I remember going, I know exactly where the showroom was. I remember it being tons of super chic and kind of, I mean, granted, I was young and didn't know everything, but I feel now, even in hindsight, that it was very ahead of its time. That you knew what was coming.
Thank you.
With some of the shapes and designs and.
So we had our own designs. It turned into a multi-line showroom. We represented Mint and Speidel, and I guess about 8 or 10 lines, and we sprinkled antiques and accessories in. And actually going back to Access, the best thing about that showroom was I got to know every decorator in New York. You know, Mario and just, it was so Jed Johnson, and everyone shopped there, and we were there. So, and then when we, go out socially or the Armory or whatever, it was a great way to meet all those people. And people came from, Boston and New York. It was good. We did that for almost 10 years. But manufacturing is really tough. Because we made things in Vermont and Long Island and upstate New York, and just the procurement and the shipping and orders and every designer wanted, like, we had this great dining table and it was 40 inches wide. Well, people had to order it at 39.5 inches.
Right.
Every single, you had to redraw.
Just to torture you.
Well, I think designers like to tell their clients, this is special for you, even if it's a half an inch, right?
Right. Well, I think sometimes they have to justify their pay.
Yeah.
When you're using furniture that is manufactured, if you can customize it in some way, it shows effort. And I think that, for right or for wrong, that is an important thing for someone to feel that effort is being made on your behalf.
But some of it was really cool. Like, we adapted some of our light fixtures for Mario for a yacht, and just to work with all these people was really great.
Yeah. Do you miss having the shop for that reason?
No.
It was just
staffing is so hard. Yeah. So I sort of took a step back, and I thought, well, my core competency is design, and that's what I want to do. So that's when I started approaching some of my vendors about designing for them. The first one was Star Carpet.
Yeah.
I went from there.
Yeah. Give me all the categories right now that you're working in.
Okay. So, well, Villeroy & China has been a big success, and furniture with Vanguard and Curry, and lighting with Curry and Visual Comfort, and some
Curry and Visual Comfort?
Yeah. And we're doing our first plumbing line for Watermark that's coming out later this year, which I'm very excited about. And another carpet collection for Aronson Flooring under their Empire name.
I just actually heard about them.
Oh,
I don't
really?
know them. I just heard about them like
God.
a month ago. And I heard that it was, that's so funny. I mean, it's not, it's typical. But,
I'll meet you there someday. That would be fantastic. Yeah. And every new category is such a learning curve, but it's so exciting.
I would assume that plumbing, I've been dying to do plumbing for a long time. But that I would assume takes the longest.
Yeah, it's the most technical. Yeah. And, but it's a great company, and they're in Brooklyn, which is fantastic. I love that they're made, just over the bridge, and we're working on some new things. Hopefully, we're always working on new things.
Yeah, but I'll design things and sit on them for like a decade, because it was the designing of it that was the call to arms. It wasn't necessarily the effecting it.
Right.
You know, or maybe you're busy and you don't have time to hawk your wares.
But you know what?
Did
It's like dating. Sometimes the hunt is more interesting than the actuality.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't.
Yeah.
I get that. And it's funny because there are things that I'm always drawing and creating archives, and things are a little ahead of their time, and then I kind of hold them until it's the right moment, and sometimes the moment passes. And
yeah, and so be it. But sometimes you just have to exercise that. Yes, a decade.
When I first started going to High Point, I used the word modern, and people were like, "Oh, we don't want modern."
Yeah. No. They wanted leather, brown and leather, and there were no women at High Point. I mean, except answering the phone. I remember it well, and there were great women answering the phone. Not to diss them, but it was it was an unfamiliar subculture. Now you go and it's representative of life as we know it.
Right, and the world.
And the world. And the world, yeah.
There were a lot of men in white shoes then.
Yeah. And everybody was smoking. Everybody was smoking. I remember I was staying at the Radisson, which is right near the IHFC, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. And I was with my father, and I remember there was a sports bar in the lobby, and it was filled to the gills with those guys.
Yeah.
Smoking and yeah.
Yeah, a lot has changed.
Who's Sweet Laurel Garden? Do you know them? It sounds like, yes, she or he was, yes, in the 80s. That was when it was all just starting, that turn.
Yeah.
Turning the ship into modern and mid-century.
Somebody asked me about trends, and I was thinking this. We go to Miami a lot, and there's such great shopping for vintage.
Sure.
And there was one season everybody had Pierre Cardin, and we sort of figured that generation was dying off, and all the estate sales.
That was furniture.
Furniture, yeah.
Poor Pierre Cardin just got. I grew up knowing that was an example of branding gone amok. So, no, seriously, that it just burnt its name by being on everything, and that you can't be so unselective.
But he did an amazing design. There was a great exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum last year. You can check out the book.
Yeah. No, I mean there was a great talent. Obviously, it's just this market saturation.
Yeah, it happened to a lot of those guys then.
Yeah.
But
you watched that Halston documentary?
Oh my God, yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I know. They're making a film out of that with Ewan McGregor. A miniseries.
Ewan McGregor has the hair for it. The hair, but not the height.
Yes, but they'll make him look tall.
Yeah, I don't mind. it. Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah. What do you? Oh, so for the people who weren't around yesterday, Barry and I both love movies and old movies, all kinds of movies, and Barry claims to be a pop culture maven. So I would love somebody, not Goonies stuff, but real pop culture over the ages. If they could stump him with some questions, I would love that. But anyway, what are you working on now that, in terms of a person's house or office or whatever, that you're loving?
I'm working on several apartments in the city. There's one on Central Park West that I think the building's from like 1910, and we're just reimagining this space and turning it into kind of a classical background, but modern. It's kind of layering the modern. Yeah. And it's really coming together. I'm excited about that. And I'm in this wonderful spot where all the clients are terrific.
Oh,
they're thoughtful, appreciative. And I'm doing a loft penthouse on the west side, and we just started today one on East End Ave. And we have a lot of apartments, and I have some meetings about some commercial things next month that it's too early to talk about, but I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah.
We like to balance out what we're doing.
But how can you? How can you know what's coming down the pike?
Well, I put myself out there for more commercial work. So
How do you do that? Do you do bids?
No, it's kind of more networking with the right
Okay.
people, or the people who know the right people. And
Yeah, I find networking, I know my father did, but I don't feel like I feel it uncomfortable doing it in a meaningful way. I don't mind talking to people and having fun, but what's some good advice about how to network?
I think it's being at the right places. The Design Leadership Network is fantastic to network, and I've gotten a lot of work from brokers. I mean, a lot of these people have become really good friends, so
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable, and they'll send me to their friends who are, they're closing on an apartment and they don't know the designer. I'm not like putting myself out there unnaturally. It's, it's kind of a more organic thing.
But if you're a youngin, if you were a babe in the woods, what would what would you counsel somebody to do?
Well, I find somehow getting to know realtors is just a really good thing. And there's a lot of young, hungry realtors that might be your age, getting in there, seeing if they'll hand you around or, I don't know. There's so many design activities.
But to be out there, to put yourself out there and to be willing to be lucky.
Yeah. Last year, right? Because we're thinking about becoming more bi-coastal, and I had some meetings in LA, and one of the top Sotheby's broker handed me this book, and he said, "You should read this and do this." And I can't think of a name, but it's something like "Never Eat Lunch Alone." Like literally every day have a meaningful lunch. And I got that right before the pandemic.
Well, you were just eating by yourself. I must say,
So
there's
put that in
nothing
the
I like
drawer
better than eating lunch alone. I love going to a restaurant and reading a book or a magazine. It's my favorite thing. But I guess that's wrong.
Well, you're asking me, just
Yes.
and I know people that are very successful doing that. And also getting to know other people are willing to talk to you if you're a young designer.
Yeah, it's also good to when you don't take a client. I find it's always easier to say no to a project if you have somebody to recommend.
Yes, definitely.
Somebody who you think like obviously doesn't do exactly the same thing you do because you're different people, but if you get a sense of what they want and that somebody, that's a good thing to be helpful and to create relationships with that other person.
Because you never know what, there was one time we took a job, just this woman said she needed a rug and a lamp. And Karen Fisher used to have designer referrals. I don't know if you remember.
She died like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This lady's really nice. Can you just help her out? And my assistant did it. And it turned into an entire apartment on Park Avenue, and they sold it. And then a brand new apartment, a huge apartment on the east side. And it just started with a rug and a lamp. So we kind of live in the world of you never know.
Yeah. And even if you're going to do one rug and one lamp, you want it to be a great rug and a great lamp.
That's true.
And yeah.
So, I mean, you just never know.
Yeah, you never know. And the same is true about not being helpful. You never know who you're not being helpful to.
That's true.
I have spoken to writers at magazines who have reached out to a designer or two and gotten bupkis and have really been annoyed.
Yeah.
And
I don't get it.
No, I mean, it's just be careful, always be nice. Always be nice.
People have long memories. Years ago, I had a client who was a very, very wealthy tech guy. And he was just like an average nerdy schmoey guy, and his wife was actually a thoracic surgeon, but she would, not comb her hair and, have a hole in her sweatshirt. And
What's wrong with that?
No, and she'd have a baby hanging off her hip, and we'd go to the showrooms, and they treated her so badly.
Oh my God, it's like Pretty Woman. Right? Do you guys take commission? Big mistake.
Big mistake.
Yeah. And I would think that is more true now than ever, since we're all in, yoga pants. You do not look like you're in yoga pants.
I am not in yoga pants.
You best believe that I am. Yeah. What do you think, because failures, because failures are very important. What has been one of your failures that you would share?
A failure.
Like, I've had product lines that I tried to launch and then just were epically failed. And I was like, okay, I have a day job, so I'm not going to sweat it.
Right. No, gosh, that's a hard question.
Oh, there's a good question. Are you reading it? Is that what you're doing?
Oh.
Here is a stump question. Who does Cary Grant pretend to be when he calls the Savoy Hotel and the grass is greener?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. That's with from the 50s. I don't know. Does he pretend to be Cary Grant?
No, it's who he pretends to be. All right. Well, we know what we're watching tonight. Thank you, par excellence.
Check out Entourage. Love Cary. Yeah, we all love Cary Grant.
Yeah.
We all wanted to be Cary Grant.
Yeah. I mean, no, who wouldn't?
I mean, I guess when I started this new company, I did a small line of profiles, and it was because I thought I know all the vendors. I had, the best people to do leather and wood, and but they were all over the place, and it was hard to corral, and it just didn't take off. I think that was when I thought I need to just switch the licensing. That was kind of
and not be in charge of manufacturing. Yeah,
right. Didn't go that well. And I always say this every Friday afternoon at 4:30. We'd be in the car driving somewhere hopefully fabulous, and the phone would ring, and it would be Mrs. So-and-so got her table in Southampton, and the leg fell off. What are you going to do about it? It was always on a Friday. It ruined my weekend. I just don't want to do this anymore.
Working at my father's office, we always were told never to have an installation on a Friday, and I wonder if that didn't have something to do with it, that anything that could go wrong, you'd have to have a couple of days to be able to fix.
Right. And
or follow up on at least.
Right. And then it's just nagging at you.
Yeah. Have you worked abroad?
I did a house in the south of France. That was a fantastic experience.
Do you speak French?
I speak high school French.
Okay, so construction French, though, it's really different.
Not too bad. And the client's son was a friend of mine who was living in New York, and he had me and my associate architect. He gave us French lessons. And his idea of French lessons was reading like Dumas in the original French. He's a writer.
Well, actually, that sounds a lot more interesting than.
It was interesting, but I need to learn, what is a dormer? So we did all our drawings in metric and in French, and it went really well. And the craftsmen there are so great, and the best thing about it is no one ever says no.
That was not my experience.
We go to a site visit and say, can I get a molding, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. You'll have it by tomorrow. You didn't have that experience.
Wow. I did not, but I'm not bitching. But the work week is the work week. And I remember being there, and this was just a couple of years ago, and the contractor said, we've got to pick this marble. We've got to pick this marble. And it was maybe December 11th when he said this. And I said, well, I can, I'll come. And he said, well, we can't meet with them until the 24th. of December. And I said, well, then I'll come the 24th of December. And then he looked at me and he was like, we're not meeting on the, like,
Are
we're
you kidding?
closed. And I said, well, why'd you say it then? Like, I have spent holidays. I remember being in Massa or Forte de Marmi with a cold,
Oh,
specking marble on a holiday. I mean, I find that a very American thing. If we have to go on Christmas Eve, we'll go on Christmas Eve. There'll be another
right.
Christmas. But I found that, the French will not work above the hour allotment. But that was just.
But I have also had that experience in places like Martha's Vineyard.
Really?
Oh my God. It was like, can we get this? Can we get that? You don't understand. This is the vineyard. Things don't happen too fast.
I guess if you're on an island,
On
you
an
can
island.
make that happen. You can just say no, and there aren't a million other people who can do it for you.
And I think I'm from Massachusetts, but I'm thought of as a New Yorker, and like this guy, like putting the pressure on them they were not happy about it.
Right.
It's like, what do you mean you haven't built a fireplace in 2 weeks?
Would you want to? I really would love to work more abroad. Is that something that interests you? I mean,
Yeah,
I've worked in China and I've worked in France, but I want more.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
Because it's such an adventure. Like, even if you do it once in your life, you did it that one time.
Let's do it together.
Let's do it together. I was talking to
cool.
somebody. Oh my God, it's 4:57. I was talking to somebody about a job in Malaysia, and I was like, I'm in. Just the idea that things we can, just go to Vietnam to look at the furniture manufacturing. It's just so thrilling. And seeing all the, I do think it's mind expanding, meeting different peoples and cultures, and just seizing the richness of it all.
Yeah, the colors and the patterns and the food.
And the food.
Yeah.
And the expertise and the incredible talents.
Yeah, that's true.
It's pretty amazing.
Okay, when are we going?
All right, you and I'll call you. I'll hang up and call you. So, what are you most looking forward to after COVID? Not restaurants, not putting pants on. What would be fun for work?
Oh, for work?
Yeah.
I'm focused on going abroad. I would love to travel again.
Okay, well, we're going to find a job abroad. Can you? Well, how? If you're an architect, you'd have to get an architect of record that was local, right?
It depends on what we're doing. Like, we produce that set of drawings here in Metric.
But you didn't file them with the local, body of whatever. I mean, it's not bad.
I think my client was such that we didn't have to.
I like it. Oh, well, thank you so much for. Oh yeah, Sweet Laurel Garden. You are totally right. Italy. We didn't mention Italy.
I love Italy.
My husband grew up there, so we can bring him as a translator.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You, me, Italy, or Malaysia, or anywhere else, but maybe not Iceland, because they had something like 100,000 earthquakes in the last 3 weeks.
I'm kind of more also of a warm versus a cold person. Anything that has the word ice in it, I'm not so on board.
Okay. All right,
unless it's a drink.
But what? You'd say no to a cool Russian project?
Oh, right.
It's cold there. It gets cold.
Yeah, that's true.
Or Sweden.
I'm Russian by birth, so that would be really cool to bring that full circle.
Okay. All
We'll
right.
talk.
We'll talk. All right. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Thank you. What a pleasure.
The false start yesterday, and thank you for doing this again today. It's so much fun for me to get to speak to my peeps after all of this closure. I need to see the faces of all of these talented people I love and admire, and you are one of them.
Well, thank you. I feel the same.
All right.
Have a great
Kisses.
weekend.
Love you. Bye, sweet
Bye.
Laurel. Bye, par excellence. See you guys next week. And love you, Barry.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.